I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello, and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I am very grateful that you are here. I feel so privileged to introduce you to powerful women, women that understand that they have a passion, women that are willing to step into their greatness, women that are change makers and want to make a difference on this planet for themselves and for others. And so we do this every week. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon, and video on YouTube. Subscribe, come back, meet a new woman every week. Tell other women in your life to come, because every single woman that I interview has something powerful to say and will give you tools that you can use for your own life. You can also go to cynthiajames.net. That's my website. There's gifts there and resources for you, and you can get my monthly newsletter and join my community. So today, I get to introduce you to a new friend. Her name is Kimberly Peavler. She is an RN, a BSN, with 25 years of experience. She is a certified holistic life coach and mindfulness practitioner. Kim founded Milan Mind, a holistic lifestyle company supporting Black women. She teaches the art of presence as an antidote to combat stress and improve our overall well-being. Her program is currently in the early phase of an adaptation of the film documentary Culture Meets Presence. We will be talking about that. She is also a member of the Holistic Nursing Association and the National Black Nurses Association, where she connects with like-minded professionals who share her commitment to holistic care. Inspiring Black women to embrace their inner values and lead their lives with intention is at the core of Kim's mission. She believes in the transformative effects of mindfulness meditation, using it as a tool for self-value, self-awareness, and self-acceptance. Kim, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I am filled with gratitude to be here with you, sharing this space. So, yeah, I'm excited about our conversation today.
Me too. But let's start with where you were born, how you grew up.
Okay. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And since then, I've kind of lived in that Midwest kind of area there. But in Milwaukee, I lived there till I was about 10 years old. And then we moved to St. Louis. So my mom was from St. Louis and she moved to Milwaukee. We had family there. And when we moved to St. Louis, we went to live with my grandmother, who had cancer at that time. So my mom, being the only daughter, she went back to kind of help take care of her. And that was a whole different world for me then at that point, because I think that in Milwaukee was filled with issues for starters, but it felt like we lived in, it just felt maybe, and I could be a kid, but it felt like Sesame Street in a way. But when I got to St. Louis, so my grandparents were one of the few Black people at the time to purchase a home. So years and years ago, they purchased a home and they owned a home. And that was, a long time ago. And it was kind of rare at that point. But at some point in cities, that neighborhood turned into the affordable neighborhood. So when we got there, it was not a good neighborhood at all. So, yeah, it was filled with another set of trauma, for me moving from there to a neighborhood that was really, I felt like it wasn't safe to be outside.
Right. And do you think moving with your grandmother planted any seeds of caregiving in you?
So I'm going to say no because of the, and I want to say it in a way that I can still be respectful of her memory. But
Mm,
my grandmother was a bit affluent. She could pass what you call passing. She
mhm.
could pass, right? And she wore that with a badge of honor. And she really wasn't she just wasn't a typical grandmother, I want to say.
Okay, well, let me intersect here because, okay, the Black people listening to this will know what she's talking about. The Caucasian people or other nationalities, what she's saying is because of her skin color, she looked like she was white, and so that was a badge of honor. You know, you know, decades back, that was an aspiration,
Mhm,
for safety to make you feel like you counted. So
mhm,
but I want to know then, where did this call for nursing come in, this call for wellness?
mhm. Well, Cynthia, again, so I have like these little bizarre kind of stories. So this is what nursing, I still believe that it was a divine intervention. So after high school, I went to Grambling State University, which is a HBCU.
Mhm.
Um, and at that school, I met a girl from Chicago. And for me, I thought she was the coolest thing ever. She had this little two-seater Capri. Again, she just felt like a free spirit of sorts. So I thought she was super cool. So when someone asked her what she was studying, she said nursing. So like me being motivated, I mean, it's not atypical for me, but me being motivated by coolness, it was like, well, then I want to be a nurse. And then
Mm,
really that's how it started, right? So it wasn't necessarily this story of I want to take care of people. It started with the girl at the elevator. But I mean, again, so it's actually probably been 26 years. So it's 26 years later, and I'm still doing that. And then early in life, I had childhood asthma and I was really sick all the time. So it was probably something that was planted there. I was in the hospital often with some respiratory illness or asthma, I want to say. So it could have been planted there, but it's like God needed to speak to me in a way that I could hear it. So.
right. Totally get it. So I want to know, when did it occur to you that you wanted to focus on Black women and our health?
Mhm. And again, so I think it was my calling, right? For me, it was my health. So I mentioned that I had asthma as a child.
Mhm.
And then at the age of about 23 or 24, I was very sick. And I ended up with, we call it a trach, but a tracheotomy is where they cut your throat and kind of put a tube in there. So it was an
Mhm.
emergency tracheotomy, and I was in a coma for like 3 days.
Mhm.
And that was the tipping point for me to feel like I didn't want that to control my life anymore. And I
Yeah.
didn't identify with that anymore. Because prior to that, my asthma, my stories around asthma met you before you even met me. It's like
Yes.
I introduced myself like, hi, I have asthma and my name is Kim, you know. And it
Right.
was like I didn't want to identify with that anymore. I realized it had a huge control over me. So then at that point, and even to this moment right now, as the process is beginning to unravel of how did I get there, and from there, I started to understand that it was stress. So I had an early childhood emotional trauma, and that is really what kickstarted everything, right? So it's the chronic stress of living with that and never having it be addressed. There was never like therapy offered. And to be super transparent about it, no one ever talked about it again,
Right.
ever. So sometimes you have these family issues or these family dynamics. And everyone in the family may know about it, and people outside of it may know about it, but people don't talk about it as if it, it never exists. So then you learn to develop some coping mechanisms, and
Right.
mine were not serving me, right? And I was still like living with the stress of that, to that point where it just kind of came to fruition when I had this overwhelming illness. And then from there, it's like I've been really kind of getting at the root cause of what got me here. So that's where mindfulness came from for me. And then I also can see that that happens as well with other Black women in the Black community, just the Black community in general, not even having a, Dr. Joy Duvary talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? And again, no one has really unpacked that. It's just you went through this, and then maybe it was, civil rights, and you just keep on moving. That's what
That's
you do.
right.
You keep moving, you keep grinding, and you don't process the past. You just leave it back there, but you don't really understand how much the past is really navigating your destination in life, right? It's navigating your journey.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, there's this unspoken agreement in the Black community. Don't let people in your business. It's
Yeah.
that, it's contained, except it's having impact, which shows up in behavior, which shows up in choices, which shows up in really interesting ways. And so, um, um, plus, Black women, we're enculturated to be caregivers, take care of people, do it, put them first,
Mhm.
and because of slavery or whatever, our eating habits it didn't come along as so great. And
Mhm.
so, I think learning how to love yourself, take care of yourself, honor yourself, it's a journey.
Yes, it is.
So I want to talk about um you're doing a movie. What's the movie about?
No, so the movie is about culture meets presence. So um again, I went through nursing school, and I think even in nursing school, I was probably always interested in alternative forms of healthcare, right?
Hmm.
Um, but at some point I found mindfulness, and it's probably been somewhere between 13 and 15 years ago. And the first community group that I taught was called Black Chicks Meditate. So again, this is about 15 years ago. And the issue was that Black chicks were not meditating, right? Because the word mindfulness has a Buddhist lineage to it,
Right.
right? And it wasn't right now it's probably even saturated. It wasn't that way 15 years ago. So people knew, or Black women knew, that it had a Buddhist lineage. And then even just meditation in and of itself was like, what is this? I don't know what this is. It kind of caused friction with Christian beliefs. So
Yes.
it felt like I spent a lot of time convincing Black women the benefits of it and how it can help with stress. But then I moved away from that town, and I live where I live now. So I created a group then, and it was called She Meditates. And it was a multicultural group. And I felt like it was very beneficial as well, because I feel like we need to see ourselves in each other, right? And we have
Yes.
more alike than we have different. And I'm all about that. But then just through some serendipitous moments at my place of employment, I noticed that they had a meditation room. And from there, I'm like, what's going on in the medical world that you can put a meditation room in the hospital? So then I decided I wanted to go back. I went back to school before to be a nurse practitioner for like a year, and I didn't like it, and I stopped. But this time it's like, if this is happening in medicine, this may be something I want to get on board with. But again, the nursing curriculum, when I looked at the master's program, it didn't satisfy me at all. So I found a mindfulness program, and it's from an accredited university. And after being accepted into the school, and all the research that I do is on Black women, because I noticed the health disparities. So for being a nurse for a long time, right? And then seeing what the literature says, that how our biggest morbidity and mortality rates has to do with our health disparities. So
Right.
then I went back full circle, and in my internship, I created an 8-week program that's specifically designed for Black women in a way to introduce mindfulness to you that doesn't that is culturally appropriate. Let's say those
Yes.
words, that is culturally sensitive to our needs. And then the documentary is the adaptation of that 8-week program. So what I've done is, like, I'm taking women through the program. We're documenting their journey through it. And then it's also intertwining bits of my story as well. But it's doing it in a way that, like, what does our culture look like being present? And this is where we meet at that moment, in this moment.
It's beautiful. And, the thing is, it's like, mindfulness now is being taught in universities, in corporations, and so I love that you're doing this and documenting it, because I think we need to see ourselves healing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, did you know how to do a documentary?
No. So again, this crazy little stories about me. So I'm in nursing. It's so funny. It's like, why am I always trying to get away from nursing? And I feel like, again, so even in nursing school, I'm in a 4-year program, and I'm in a management class, and I'm writing a paper about how I'm using nursing to help me so I can act, because I was an actress as well. So when I lived in my other town, I kind of quit my job and decided that I was going to go be a star, right? So my husband's like, oh, okay, so now you're on to something else, right? So and I came closer to Chicago. This is where I live now, and I'm doing a lot of acting things here in the community. So I know in front of the camera, but I don't know too much behind the camera. But I have a magnificent crew that works with me. I hired a great director and production company, and a writer. And that's what we're doing right now. We are really working to bring a bit of richness to the story, as you said, seeing each other heal. And knowing that a person who could have gone through your exact same story can have a process of dealing with what is, and seeing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess I want to just say, though, what is your vision? What do you hope this documentary will do?
Mm. I hope the documentary will start a conversation, right? And one of the biggest things that I've noticed with doing the work that I'm doing with mindfulness and then doing it in the Black community is that Black women feel like they're not stressed if there isn't some big stressor in life, right? So if there isn't maybe a death, a loss of a job, or or any of those things, right? Even moving a baby, something like that. It's like, if you ask the average Black woman, is she stressed? She says no. But
Right.
yet our health disparities are high across all socioeconomic statuses, right? So if you think that a person who maybe is on the lower income and they don't have access to healthcare, they don't have access to take care of themselves, then you would think the disparities would be higher there. But as you can see, even with some of the celebrities, it's just as high with people who are multimillionaires. When you look at maybe what Serena Williams went through a
Mm,
little bit with
mm,
the maternal fetal death rate for
mm.
Black moms is sky high. When you can see that happening, it's letting you know it's a way that we process. So I'm really hoping that Black women will take a step back and begin to take an inward journey in, because as you mentioned before, we're constantly on the grind. We're taking care of our parents, taking care of our kids. We're in the neighborhood. Sister Johnson from church may need something, and every other little thing in there, but we begin to put ourselves on the back burner, right? And it's about not trying to fit into the mold of I take care of everything.
Right.
And not include yourself in that. And some of it has to do with having a relationship with yourself as well.
100%. Well, and that thing you were talking about, we're so used to juggling a lot of balls that we don't think it's creating stress. We don't think that it's having impact. So I'm grateful that you're doing this, because I think, first of all, we need to know how to identify stress really. And then what do you do to manage it and learn to care for yourself first? So I love that you're doing this. And you're in school too now. When do you graduate?
December. I'm working on the thesis right now. So I'm in a thesis prep class, and then next semester is the thesis. So I'm done. In December. So
And when do you see your documentary coming out?
well, I would like for it to be out by the end of the year, but sometimes things don't go as planned. But definitely by the beginning of the year, I would like to have that out there, and then we'll do a tour with it. I mentioned before some HBCUs, maybe going to some of the churches and showing it in different places like that. And I'm looking for a partnership with some of the healthcare systems, as well, to kind of get the word out there. And that's my hope, is that you can just begin to look at yourself and realize, what do you need for you?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's not outside of you. It's not in your credentials, right? It's not in the commas in your bank account. It's not in how many organizations you belong to. It's like, you are worthy because you're worthy, and not the work that you do,
Absolutely. So how do people find you and find out about your movie?
Oh, the platform. So the movie is called Culture Meets Presence, and that is the website is culture meets with an S presence.com.
Right.
And it's the same thing on Instagram. And then our company, the Melon Mind Company, where we teach the art of presence as an antidote to stress, is Melon, MELAN MIND, melonmind.us. And that's the website for that.
Beautiful. Okay, ladies, let's support her. Let's celebrate her. Let's help her get her message out. I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening in this moment on the planet?
Oh my goodness. Not only do I think it's a one most important thing, I think it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of restoring a balance, right? I think that in so many ways we have been in a very masculine dominated kind of culture. And it's not to get rid of that masculine energy, right? But it is to start to invite that feminine energy back in, to awaken to something that was kind of denied to us at some point, right? Maybe it was fear or whatever it is that you learned through the history of that. But again, it's like bringing the two back into harmony. But we as women we have to awaken to that within ourselves, right? And then we begin to do that collectively. So shows like this, and maybe the work that I'm doing, it's part of that. It's like, how can I wake up to who I am and what I'm here to do and my purpose, and begin to get with the program of living that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, for bringing your wisdom, and I'm so grateful that you continue to listen to your guidance.
Yes, yes. I am too, and I thank you for recognizing that, and I thank you again for letting me use your platform to talk about something that's so important for me. And I think it's important for not only Black women, but once one person heal, we all can begin to heal with
That's
that.
right.
So I thank you for having a platform where you're talking about important issues that pertain to us all. So yeah, it's reciprocated.
Thanks, Kim. All right, ladies, I'm gonna say the same thing I always say to you in a different form. This is the moment. Nothing to wait for, nothing from the past stopping you. This is your moment to remember who you are, to put yourself first, to care for yourself, to love yourself, to honor yourself, and to demand the same from everyone around you. Something beautiful is occurring because your presence on this planet is essential. Know that you're held, know that you're loved, know that you're important, know that you matter. And I'm very grateful that I get to be with you every week.